I'm Vanessa Hua. Today, I'll be reading you an excerpt from What We Have is What We Need. Papa could break into any house in the neighborhood. He would squirt grease and work on the lock, twisting the pins and springs. Although I heard the click indicating that he was in, he fiddled a few minutes longer so the customers would think they were getting their money's worth. If it were too easy, they looked annoyed and wondered aloud how much the short visit was really worth. $60 for less than an hour's work? Or they went into a spasm of fear about how easily burglars could get in. "Don't worry," Papa would reply, looking at their dusty televisions, black velvet couches, and gilded portraits of La Virgencita. "I think the thieves have other places to go." The year I turned 13, I was learning the trade. I accompanied Papa on weekend house calls in the mission, learned the names of the tools, and in a few instances gave him the right one before he asked for it. He taught me how to file key blanks, but not yet how to pick a lock. That happened only after my mother began to disappear. Up until then, I had been her son, not my father's. After one of our house calls that autumn, I dreamed of a magic key that could open all doors. To our neighbor's apartment, to every car parked on the block, and the doors of a bank vault. No one would be safe before me. Papa laughed when I told him the next morning. "Lalo, there's no need for such a key." He could open any lock with his skills, force his way into anywhere. He kissed my mother on the cheek. She put down her wooden spoon, and he embraced her, his hand reaching to cop a feel. The leftover refried beans started to smoke on the stove. My parents broke apart, and Mama laughed, embarrassed, swatting at him and pulling the pan off the stove. Neither of them looked at me. His grin was smug, possessive. He cupped her butt once more, and she leaned into him. I wanted such powers for myself someday, to win someone like Mama, but I could not imagine talking to women with such confidence. Even girls my age seemed years ahead of me, with their thick eyeliner, dark red lips, and curves packed into their jeans. A week later, Mama and I were walking back from a market when she showed me the flyer for classes at a community center, La Gloria Abierta. An unexpected reminder of home, and a phrase my abuelita, my mother's mother, used to say when the money for my parents was long gone, when she conjured another meal from an almost empty sack of beans. La Gloria Abierta, or what we have, is what we need. Not the words in their usual sense, but something deep and old and mysterious. I should have crumpled the flyer and tossed it into the trash, told my mother that she had no time, that she worked hard enough already, and that I needed her more. Mama cleaned rooms in one of the big hotels in downtown San Francisco. Before I arrived, she had worked at restaurants, sewing factories, and hotels, whatever she could find, but the jobs all paid the same. Enough for food and rent, and not much to send home. The training at the community center might help her get an office job and higher pay, she said. Maybe at one of the insurance or accounting agencies along Mission Street. The plan, like all her plans, was to earn enough money to bring my two younger brothers from Morelia. Jose, dark and compact with high cheekbones like me and my father, a daredevil who could walk on his hands. Ernesto, the youngest, with a mop of fat curls like my mother's, quiet and shy, my abuelita's favorite. I missed them, but I didn't want them to come here. Not yet. In America, I was an only child, and I liked having all the attention. My mother and I did our homework assignments together after dinner in the kitchen. The window looked onto the roof of the building next door, covered in gravel and patches of tar, desolate as the moon. A moist, oily smell of grease permeated our apartment, a hint of all the people who had ever lived here. As a teenager, my father left Mexico with his cousin. They crept over the border and walked through the desert before piling into a truck that brought them to San Francisco. When he was 20, he came home and married my mother, the prettiest girl in their neighborhood of narrow streets, concrete houses, tin roofs, and no fathers. After that, he returned to his family at Christmas every other year, back when it was easier to cross La Frontera. He saw each of his 3 boys in diapers, and the next time walking and talking. He told my mother to work on the house to make it nice for when he made enough money and retired in Mexico in a few years. She began adding a second floor, but ran out of money. The concrete stairs led nowhere. In the evenings, she and I watched telenovelas on the tiny black and white set. She sighed over the clothes and houses, but scoffed at the women. "That's no maid," she said. "Look at her hands. Too soft." She made fun of the leading men, who were tricked every time. Plotting, evil women kept them from their true love. Que tonto. Can't he see what's happening?